In this tutorial, we are going to discuss about signals in Angular. Signal is a new addition in Angular 16. Signal is an alternative way to do reactive programming in Angular. Let's see how Signal can use for reactive programming. This is a simple Angular project created using Angular 17. I am going to create a two-number field where the user can enter numbers and demonstrate how to display the sum of those numbers by calculating it using a signal. Even though this logic is very simple and may not require a signal, it serves as a good example to understand how signal work in Angular. First, I will create two variables of the signal type in my app component to hold the first and second numbers. I will initialize these numbers with a value of 0. This is how you can create a signal type. Simply use signal and pass the initial value as an argument. This will create a writable signal. A writable signal is a type of signal that allows us to update its value. We'll see how to update the signal in the later part of this tutorial. Also note that signal belongs to Angular core package. Next, I will create corresponding input field in my HTML template. I am creating an input field of type number. I have added an ID num1, although it is fine even without an ID. Similarly, I have created a second input field. I need to update the num1 and num2 signals created in the app component whenever a user key in any value in the input fields. I am binding these input fields to a component method so that whenever a user key in any value, this component method will update the num1 and num2 signals in the component with those values. setNum1 is the component method I am using to update the num1 signal defined in the component. Event is the argument passed to the setNum1 method. I am going to create the setNum1 method in the app component. The method name will be setNum1 and it will take event as its argument. Next, we will update the num1 signal with the value we receive from the input field. Set is the method used to update the value in the signal. Event.target.value is used to get the value the user key into the input field. I have defaulted the value to 0, meaning that in case of any invalid value from the input field, we will use 0 instead of that invalid value. Using the parsing here for converting the value to an integer, I created a similar method for the second input field, updating the same event binding for the num2 field. So now whenever an input value change occurs, that value will be updated to the corresponding signal variable in the component. Next, I need to calculate the sum of the num1 and num2 values. Whenever there is a value change in num1 or num2, I want to calculate their sum. This represents a reactive scenario, and within Angular Signal Framework, we can use Computed for this purpose. Computed is a part of the Angular core library. I am passing a function to Computed which calculates the sum using the values from the signals num1 and num2. Next, I am going to display sum in my HTML template by using the Angular binding. For accessing the value from the signal, we need to use bracket like this. Whenever a user key in any number in num1 or num2 input field, that value will be updated to the corresponding signal defined in the component. When they change the signal value, this computed will be triggered and recalculated sum. In this way, sum will be hold the sum of the latest value from the input fields. I have added a few line breaks for spacing. Next, we'll start the app and see how our logic works. Open the terminal. npm run start. Application is starting. The application is started. Next, I will open this URL in browser. We can now see our UI. The sum is 0 because there are currently no values in the input fields. When I key in 1, you can see the sum is updated. Upon inputting 20 into the second field, the sum is recalculated. This confirms that our reactive logic, which uses signal for calculating the sum, is working effectively. Another important thing is computer signals are both lazily evaluated and memoized. This means that function will not run unless the computer signal is read somewhere. Furthermore, if the sum is used in multiple places, this function will run only once and the value will be cached. This cached value will be then returned in case of multiple reads of the computed signal. In that sense, computer signals are performance efficient. Effect is another concept related to signals in Angular. Effect is similar to computed, but main difference is effect will not return any signal like computed. Effect helps to listen to signals and do some action when a signal value changes. We will see how we can create an effect. I am creating an effect using the function effect from Angular core. Passing a function to effect, and this function will execute whenever a signal using in this function change. Here I used sum, so whenever value of the signal sum changes, this effect will be triggered and value of the sum will be displayed in the console. Application is already started and we will see how this works. We can see log is already printed for the value 0, and also you can see the log is printing for each input change. What is happening here is for each input change sum will be updated and that trigger this effect. We can use effect not just for console log. We can use some scenario like storing the sum value into local storage or invoking analytics call when the signal changes. That's all about effect and signal. Thank you for watching this video.